Well, welcome everyone to episode 5 of Zen in Real Lives. And today we have Kristi. Thank you, Kristi, for being here.
Thank
Some
you
of you know Kristi. She sometimes is in the live stream chat for Empty Gate Zen Center on Thursdays. She's definitely in the Patreon community. So if you are in Patreon, you've seen her there because you come to some of the meetings.
I do.
Yeah.
I haven't lately because my work changed.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Maybe we can dive into that. I'm sure it's all connected somehow.
It is. So my main background is a public school nurse. So I've worked with every population from transitional kindergarten all the way to special needs students. For our county, they stay in the school district up to 22 oldest, and I've worked with a variety of them. So one of my colleagues, she just had a baby a few weeks ago, and prior to giving birth, she's like, "Hey, can you help me out in substitute?" And I'm like, "Substitute school nurse?" And she's like, we have a position, waiting if you're able to help me out. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I remember when we were trying to find a time to do this, you said you were very busy. Now I understand because we're here on a Saturday doing this.
Yep.
Good. All right. So first tell everyone what area are you living in?
I am in San Bernardino County, specifically in Ontario. So,
which is in California. Some of those.
It's in California, yeah.
She's in the southern California, which is nice. I do love to visit there. How long have you been practicing meditation? This is something I don't even know.
I would say I started when I was 9, if I had to put a specific date. Yeah. So my family is Buddhist, and at 9 years old, I was just kind of drawn to it. My family practices, we pray every morning, specifically my dad. And my grandmother, she was very religious. She would chant in the morning. So there would be the bells and all that. So my dad is more drawn to it than my mom is. But as a family, we practice.
Was there a certain style of Buddhism they practiced, or?
Mahayana, but not necessarily. Okay. Yeah, but not necessarily Zen.
Wow.
So the story is always, at 9 years old, I saw the movie Babe. And in that movie, it's like, oh, the pig has no purpose. Its only purpose is to feed the master. So it kind of got me curious about, why are certain things happening a certain way? And from there, at 9 years old, I became a vegan.
Wow.
Yeah. So my family always laughs about how extreme I am. I go from one extreme to the other. So at that time, I asked one of my aunts, hey, can you teach me about meditation? Can you teach me about chanting? So I completely dived in to it.
That's amazing. So young. I mean, that's good. That's good that, it was in your life.
Yeah, but it didn't kind of stick. I just got my feet wet. And then time passed, and I would say the pattern I've noticed about myself is when things kind of get messy, I come back to the path to kind of straighten me out and make certain changes so that it becomes consistent. And the consistency of chanting and meditation and praying probably didn't set until in my mid-20s, I would say.
And then you said too, you say when things got difficult, then you put more energy into practice. Yeah, we have this teaching. I don't know if you heard it. A bad situation is a good situation, and a good situation's a bad situation. People think that sounds like some Zen mumbo jumbo, but it's when things are good, people are don't need to practice. Everything's fine. I'm happy. And then when things start getting challenging, and they realize bad situation, and we call it a good situation because we start investigating it a little bit more.
Well, there was one time where I reached out to you when I was doing my psych nursing.
I remember this.
Yes. Yeah. And you're like, interesting that you added an additional 15 minutes to your practice.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so how did you get connected with, was it Empty Gate Zen Center, or how did you get connected?
It was Empty Gate.
It was Empty Gate Zen Center.
It was Empty Gate. During nursing school, when things were getting messy in nursing school, the schedule's kind of wonky and you're the thing I always like to tell nursing students is there is a reason to the madness in nursing school of being flexible.
Mm-hmm.
And but for a very type A person that I was at that time, like the consistent inconsistencies was making it very difficult for my brain to handle. And I looked on YouTube, and for some interesting reason, Empty Gate Zen Center was the first thing that popped up.
Wow, very interesting. Okay, yeah, because I remember when you first reached out, but I never saw the connection with Empty Gate. Mm-hmm. How would you say your practice has changed? Like, what does your practice look like now? I know your life situation's changing and jobs and things like that, but do you have like a daily practice that you have?
I do. Earlier, I think last year, you had kind of planted a seed in my head of like, why not try walking meditation? Mm-hmm. And that was always one thing that was really difficult for me. Like when I come back to my center, like I need it to be like quiet and limited sound and not a lot of motion. But interestingly enough, I actually kept that walking meditation. So my daily practice is I wake up in the morning roughly about 5:30, and I'll start with my Qigong practice. So I'm warming up my body, I'm doing tapping practices, and I do that for roughly about 15 minutes.
Did you say tapping practice?
Uh-huh.
What is that?
So tapping is the practice of Qigong. The theory is that we have certain meridians, and in a medical aspect, it's where our arteries and veins connect to the main artery and vein area. So if you're tapping your chest and you're having chest issues, like you would kind of tap on your chest to kind of warm up that area, to bring energy to that area. Mm-hmm. So I go through the main meridian practices. And afterwards, then I do my walking for 15 minutes.
Do you do it inside or outside?
I do, depending on how the weather is that day. If it's cooler, which it has been in the morning, but there's some mornings where it's like super humid and it just doesn't work. Yeah. So I do it indoor. I turn on the fans and I walk indoors. And then I do 15 minutes of stretching. And then I do 30 minutes of sitting.
What about in your area? Is there like any meditation groups or Zen groups around where you live?
The closest one that I used to go to, gosh, I haven't seen her in a while. I would say about 3 years ago. The one I'm drawn to, it's all the way in Downey. And that's where Downey would be a good 45 minutes away from me.
Yeah, got it.
And that's the one that my godmother goes to.
Ah.
Huh. And it's a Zen center. It's a Taiwanese Zen temple, actually. Mm-hmm.
I remember from some of our email exchanges, you've talked a lot about work and some about life. So what's the connection for you, like practice and life? Is there any example you can give about how it's helped you?
The first one that pops in my head is when I was working in psych, adolescent psych. You can definitely, when you're kind of clear and in your center, you can feel and you can experience other people's thoughts. Mm-hmm. And no better place than a psych facility. Wow. I would say specifically of the chatters that certain patients are playing in their head, the attachment that they have. Or sometimes I even use the analogy, the loop, like the revolving door that keeps playing in their head that they just can't pull out.
Can you offer anything like breathing exercises?
I do. Yeah. When I was doing my adolescent psych, whenever I notice certain students kind of pacing or certain repetitive motions where I feel like at that time, that was truly a practice and a practice for me to kind of teach those in their most painful and moments of suffering, like certain little tools of not necessarily utilizing it in the sense of this is a religion, but telling them and walking through the science of it. Like when you breathe from your tummy and you exhale, how much oxygen and carbon dioxide you're actually releasing. So utilizing my own practice in Buddhism that I know and connecting it into a scientific and helping them see your body's giving you signs right now that you're anxious, you're utilizing certain words that they know, but not necessarily, because you don't want to throw religion into somebody that you're not familiar with. They might get offended, but like putting it on the plate and helping them connect it. And then after a while, they kind of, if they consistently do it and you're consistently there, then you're building that consistent practice for them. And then they can take it to the outside world.
Because it sounds like it could be very stressful.
It was.
You know, in practice, we talk about the clear mind and a strong center, or, you know, balanced energy. So a strong center means that when difficult things happen, that we're able to be with it. Because usually we're knocked down and maybe we stay down for days, weeks, who knows how long. But if our energy is balanced and strong, you know, we're able to be with these difficult times. So, you know, you talked about how you can kind of perceive what they're feeling or thinking, you know, so that's the clear mind part. I talk about that a lot. You know, if our mind's clear, then when we connect, you know, we can feel it. But then there's like having that energy to be with this. I mean, it sounds very challenging. So have you felt like your practice has helped with your center?
Yes. Interestingly enough, like I kind of tapped out of that that psych practice, or psych nursing specifically, after 68 shifts. It was, for me, it was very emotionally draining because I felt compelled to want to save each and every one of them. But at the same time, I had to utilize my practice in the sense of knowing that I gave the ones that I had a connection with the tools. And now if it's meant to be, you know, our paths will cross again. And hopefully those tools they take with them and practice it. But at the same time, I realize their home situation, the different situations that they have, there's only limited access that I have. But at least that moment, my karma at that moment, I was there and I gave them the tools. And hopefully they're able to, you know, utilize the tools and consistently practice the tools that were given.
I like how you said that too. Like in this moment, what did you have to offer that was helpful? And again, planting that seed that can help their lives. Yeah, that's wonderful.
And I think also that experience of being in the psych facility, they moved me and they taught me more than I know what I might have done, because I was able to see the connections that any one of us could have been in that situation, could have been in that place at any time. But what did we do differently, or what practices did we have that allowed us to not get in that deep hole, or what I like to say, like into that attachment, like that. For me, those that are consistently going back to the facility, there's some type of attachment that they're not able to unravel or let go.
What about with your family? When you see your family, do you talk about meditation or Zen or anything?
When it pops up, my mom is one that is always curious about it.
How? It's so funny because you said she wasn't as involved, but she's the most curious about it, right?
Her questions are always, so what do you do? and then it'll jump. Like when I say like you can see people's thoughts when you're kind of grounded and clear and, you know, in your center, you can see her asking the same questions. And I catch myself every now and then of wanting to go, you've asked me this question, why don't you do it? But, you know, God forbid I say that to my mother and she'd be like, you know, you're my daughter, right? I brought you in, I can take you out. So stop.
Wait, what was that saying? I brought you what?
I brought you in, I can take you out.
You know what? My dad used to tell me this. Wow, I've never heard anyone else say that before. He used to say that all the time. Like if you got a little frustrated with me, like,
Mhm.
careful, I brought you into this world and I can take you out.
So
Uh,
my mom's one
really
of
interesting.
those. Yeah.
I've noticed too this repetitive questions and this curiosity too, because I don't usually talk about it unless somebody asks about it. I try to live it more, be an
Yes.
example of the practice rather than, and I think really that's the best way. Maybe you can leave us with maybe a quote or a short story, some kind of teaching that maybe has helped you or something that inspires your practice.
The same quote that I've carried since I was little is, and the interesting thing is I didn't realize it until we set this up of like, what kind of quote. And the quote that's always stuck with me is life is full of lessons. And I don't even know where that came from. But I've always had it in the back of my head.
In the four great vows, we have the teachings are endless. We vow to learn them all. Kind of much the same point, right? Like
Yes.
every moment, there's a teacher in front of us. And I guess the question is, do we see that teaching in that moment? So, yeah, thank you for sharing your practice and your life with us. If anybody has any questions for Kristi, go put them down in the comments. If you're interested in being on the series, you can contact me at jason@jasonquinnzen.com. And Kristi, thank you so much for doing this. It's very nice to chat with you a little more. All right, everyone. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.